Hi, and welcome to the Revolution Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Oliveira. It is my goal to bring you clear-cut strategies and drills designed to help make you or your program better. With that in mind, let's begin. Well, Happy New Year, and it's a good thing that we are in 2021. Um, So, some good things about 2020 personally is that I was able to start this podcast, something that had been on my mind pretty much for about a year. And secondly, I was able to coach and learn at the collegiate level uh, here in the Metroplex area. I learned a lot, and I also got to meet a lot of amazing people. Um, I am looking forward to 2021 and growing this podcast and hopefully extending the audience base and reaching out to other people who I can help with this podcast. I'm also looking forward to this week's ABCA convention and the speakers that they're going to have. Um, I looked at the first 2 days. I mean, there's 4 days worth of great stuff coming our way. And I mean, the first 2 days alone, catching drills and skills with Scott Strickland. Bobby Scales, Art of the Steal, Johnny Wiggs, Basics of Developing a Dynamic Pitcher. Monty Lee, The Four Building Blocks of Offense. I mean, I can go on and on. I'm also looking forward to listening to the Coaches Clinic, the Expo Theater. That is in the Expo Theaters where I actually got a lot of the information that I'm going to share today with about base running, and obviously the trade shows where we can get really great deals on uh, gear and equipment to help make our programs better. So today, I think I just give it away. We're talking about base running. Where is base running in my program, and why is it there? Um, so base running, this is my program right here, and base running is right at the top, right after the dynamic warm up. And the reason that it's there, and I used to have it pretty much towards the end of my program, uh, of my practices. However, I found that by the time that the guys got there, they were already exhausted. They were tired. They weren't paying much attention. Um, and then I listened to, I'm actually not even sure who I heard it from. I think it was Kyle Nelson with the Coaches Coaching Alliance. He mentioned that he moved it up to the front of his program, and the reason why, and it made sense to me to do that because you have the guys going through their dynamic warm up, and before a game, for instance, they're going to run on the outfield. They're going to do 2 or 3 sprints. Well, I decided to take that for practices and just move it. Instead of doing their sprints, they're going to get up to where they're going to do their sprints, and they're going to move to the infield, and they're going to do 1 of 4 stations. You don't have to do it this way. You can decide to focus on one thing at a time. But the way that I have it set up is 4 groups that rotate and start different places every day. So, for instance, uh, group one will be going from home to first, and they're either bunting or hitting and run, doing the hit and run, and it depends on the day. Group two will be doing first to second, stealing. Their focus will be stealing or the hit and run. Group three, I will be going from second to third, and their focus will be reading the bunt or reading a live ball. Um, and then group four will be going from third to home, and their focus will be doing a suicide, a safety, or reading the ball off the bat. Now, there's difference between bunting days and hit and run days. So there's always a pitcher on the mound. It doesn't matter if it's bunting or hit and run day. There is a pitcher on the mound. He does not have a ball. He is not pitching. He's not doing a bullpen up there. All he is doing is he's either holding a towel and working on his mechanics, or he's working on his pickoffs or uh, timing, to first base or home. So he's doing one or the other. He is not pitching at this time. Um, there is a pitching machine on bunting days, and that is just to make sure that everything is being thrown is a strike, or connected. You might have enough pitching to where you can actually run a bullpen at this time, pitchers and catchers, and so where you can run a bullpen at this time. I do not have that luxury. Um, However, if you do, you can, and more power to you. Now, so basically, there's a sync in between pitching, uh, you know, the pitcher pretending to throw the ball, and the ball being launched from the pitching machine, or on hit and run days, there's a coach with a fungo, and he's obviously going to decide where he's going to hit the ball ahead of time. Now, on hit and run days, there are cones to where, for instance, where a second baseman would be at, and the players are actually trying to read where, if that ball is going to go too far, so the second baseman can't get it and make a play, or if they're at third, for instance, if the ball got through the infield, if the ball is hit up, obviously up in the air, they're working on, and they're doing the hit and run from first, for instance. They might find that they need to locate that ball and make sure that they're either reading the ball. Is it catchable? Is it going to be caught? Can I start going to second, or should I start heading back and not be doubled off? So those are some things that I do with base running. You have um, the four stations to help them with base running. Now, there is a setup that I do with cones as well. I talked about the cones to show the difference between the hit ball and whether it got through the infield, or like if the third baseman could get to it, or the second baseman, shortstop, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I try to make sure that they understand that the ball behind them, they're obviously going to try to move. Now, there is a different setup on each base with cones as well. And this is where I want them to understand where I want their lead. So at first base, I have a cone, and I got this from Rob DeToma in the Expo Theater and the 2019 ABCA convention here in Dallas. And the if you want to find it, it's a Rob DeToma offense, base running, and why it matters. It was an awesome presentation, and I love this. It made sense to me, and I've been using it ever since. I'll do this for the rest of my life, as long as I'm coaching. So basically, you set up a cone at 6 feet. And at 6 feet, the players learn how to get to 6 feet. And that is when the pitcher is getting, he steps on the rubber, he's getting his signs, he's looking over his shoulder, whatever. Um, they're going to get to 6 feet. When the pitcher comes set, as he's coming set, they're going to get to either 10, 11, or 12 feet. And there are cones set up in those distances, 10, 11, or 12. And the faster runners are going to be at 11 and 12. The slower runners are going to be at 10. And I cannot tell you how important this is, because even at the collegiate level, for instance, this summer, it wasn't just my team, it was a lot of teams. They were scared to take a lead. You could tell that some of the guys that had been in college for maybe 2 or 3 years, They weren't afraid. They were taking their nice leads, and they were getting out there. However, there were a lot of guys that were taking a 5 foot lead, a 6 foot lead, and that's as far as they went. And I'm thinking, okay, I can't give you the steal sign at this point, or I'm thinking that guy's not going to go, because the lead was so short that I had confidence, that if we're pitching, he's not going to go, or we're going to get him. Or if it was our guys, I was like, okay, I don't even know why I'm at third base at this point because they've just taken the offense away from me. So it is really important to get the guys to learn how to get to a nice lead. And like I said, the slower guys are at 10 feet. And what they're doing is the Matt Tallarico read, anticipate, and get momentum moving style of base running. And the idea is you're at a stoplight, and you got a Ferrari at the stoplight. The light turns green, and a minivan is coming towards the green light. They're slowing down, but they keep going. Well, for a little bit, that minivan is going to actually beat the Ferrari that that might be maybe a Ferrari is not the best idea, the best analogy for a car, maybe a Corvette or something else. I don't know. But anyway, the idea is that momentum of them rolling through and keep on going. Um, so they're basically going to take a little jump and then go. Um, the guys that are faster, they're going to get to 11 and 12 feet. And they're not doing that. They might do more of a drop step like Ricky Henderson did. I know that that's literally what I teach. Not all guys are comfortable with that, and I get that. The guys, I do have them come out to when they're at their lead. I have them slightly open their hips to second base. Um, as like they're ready to go. They're ready to move to the next base. When they're at second, I have cones at 8 feet and 12 feet. So they're primarily just going to be at 8 feet. Their secondary is going to be at 12. And then at third base, their primary lead will be at will be the length of their body plus half. So usually about 9 to 10 feet. Um, and then they'll take their secondary. I make sure that the only cone that I do have is to remind them to stay in foul territory. So I actually have them go around the cone and come back in fair territory. And then those are the some of the props that I use to help them to understand uh, what I want when they're taking a lead, their primary, secondary, and their secondary, I didn't cover this at second. I'm sorry, at first base. So their primary lead might be might be 10, 11, or 12 feet. That's their primary lead. That's when the pitcher comes set. Their secondary might be 12 to 14 feet. Now, obviously, at 14 feet, you can get cooked by a good catcher, so you got to pay attention. Um, One of the next things is rounding the bases. So on hit and run days, one of the things that we try to focus on is making rounding the bases as tight as we can. And I saw a great presentation. I think it was 2017 or 2018 at the TCU coaches convention, and I loved what they did and what basically they use cones to help the guys understand, hey, I don't want to go beyond this cone, I want to stay in front of it. But the more important thing that they used, and I can't use it all the time, um because I just don't have the personnel for it, but when I can, they use a video. Video is a great feedback for the guys to help them know, understand, hey, look, you know what? You're way too far on, as you're running third base, for instance. And they had a great video of a guy that uh turned that bag really tight, and he did great job going all the way to home plate. And then they had a video of a guy that just rounded that third base way too wide, and I mean, he ended up getting safe at home, but he's still, I think he was able to learn that he needs to tighten that turn. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you heard something that you found practical and you can use in your practices to make you or your program better. Please send any feedback to revolutionbaseballpodcast@yahoo.com. Please share this episode with uh, other coaches, and anyone you think could benefit from it. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.